Welcome to Mattis Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. I'm always grateful. You will recall my optimal portfolio on the 30th of December last year was long Bitcoin. Look at these graphs of Bitcoin. It's cracked $4,000 and long Bitcoin, short gold on the spread. And at that time, Bitcoin was trading at less than gold. And of course, it sliced through that level and gone so much higher. Charlie Robertson at RenCap very kindly said wasn't going long Bitcoin, one of the main 2017 trade recommendations of the legendary Ali Khan Satchi, and I'm very grateful for him, Charlie, for recognizing that. Thank you. Charlie, do follow him, RenCap man, and really has, I would say, the best macro analysis across multiple emerging and frontier markets. Big Ben will fall silent for 4 years. I heard Big Ben for 5 whole years when I was in school. So quite a thing. I like this photograph, the last rays of sunlight in Scheller. This is Peter's size 10. Beautiful photograph. You can see the sun just about setting. I wrote a piece about China and Africa, and I said, of course, the first engagement between China and Kenya occurred in the 15th century when the Chinese admiral Zheng He, who was both a Muslim and a eunuch, visited the Swahili coast. Naturally, the Chinese had been keen on ventilating the story of Zheng He's 15th century visit, because it is a soft power gift horse. You will recall the discovery of Chinese DNA on Pate Island, and the story is that that DNA belonged to the Chinese Ming sailors who were shipwrecked and then married the local women. Of course, given his eunuch status, they were hardly going to be Admiral Zheng He's. And then I like this from the mentalist soaking that glorious light. Photograph of elephants. It's game on if North Korea fires missiles that hit the US, says the Defense Secretary Mattis, an impressive fellow, isn't he? He chooses his words very carefully. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis warned it would be game on for war if North Korea fired missiles that hit the US or its territories, including the Pacific island of Guam. It could escalate into war very quickly. Yes, that's called war, Mattis told reporters Monday at the Pentagon. If they shoot at the United States, I'm assuming they hit the United States. If they do that, then it's game on. Asked if he considers Guam part of the US, he said, yeah, it sure is. Kim, on the other side, discussed plans for Guam with his commanding officers during an inspection of military forces on Monday, the state-run Korean Central News Agency reported. The North Korean leader said he will watch the US's conduct a little more and praised his strategic force for drawing up a close and careful plan, KCNA said. That was largely taken to mean that he's going to be a bit more circumspect for a while. With military commanders waiting for orders from the Workers' Party Central Committee, Kim added he would watch a little more the foolish and stupid conduct of the Yankees, spending a hard time of every minute of their miserable lot. Mattis, who also sought last week to emphasize diplomatic efforts, said Monday that he wasn't trying to reignite tensions. It's not that I'm over here, Dr. Strangelove, he said. But you don't shoot at people in this world unless you want to bear the consequences. Both seem to be looking for a ladder with which to back down for now. India can defend itself from any attack, Prime Minister Modi said on Independence Day amid a Himalayan standoff with Beijing. India can defend itself from anyone who seeks to act against our country. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi in an Independence Day speech Tuesday amid a tense standoff with Beijing over a Himalayan plateau. Security is our top priority, Modi said in a speech before thousands at the landmark Red Fort in New Delhi. Be it the sea or the borders, cyber or space, in all spheres, India is capable, and we are strong enough to overcome those who try to act against our country, the Hindu nationalist leader declared. His remarks came as New Delhi's dispute with Beijing over a strategically key Himalayan plateau enters its second month on Wednesday, with hundreds of soldiers reported to be facing off against each other. Xi Jinping, these are my conclusions, has Narendra Modi where he wants him, which is on the back foot. And this is largely confirmed by a piece by M.K. Badrakumar, Standoff with China prompts revamp of India's regional policies. The denouement, the dangerous India-China military standoff in Doklam near the Sikkim border, is hard to predict. But on the diplomatic and geopolitical plane, one definite outcome of the standoff is going to be that the South Asian and Indian Ocean region will witness big power rivalry in a way that eluded it even in the high noon of the Cold War era. Arguably, such a shift could have been expected ever since India began wading into the South China Sea. Disputes with gusto over the past few years. The Doklam standoff has become a defining moment. An editorial in the Global Times newspaper on Friday gave notice that since India had been harming China's interests, Beijing was now left with no option but to retaliate. In strategic terms, China seems to think that South Asia's Gulliver can be tied down by the region's Lilliputians. The old hackneyed thesis of the string of pearls seems to be coming true. Indeed, I think. Marine One with President Trump lands in Manhattan, this photograph by Jeff Mason. Feels good to be home after 7 months, but the White House is very special, there is no place like it, and the US is really my home, said President Trump. Trump's net approval has hit negative 20 for the first time, and Gallup now has Trump approval at a new low of 34% versus 61% disapproving. Bannon cautioned the president not to criticize far-right activists too severely for fear of antagonizing part of his base. Venezuela, look at this, an anti-government activist stands in front of security forces at a barricade to protest versus Maduro. This is in Caracas. China Wolf Warriors 2 in war-ravaged Africa gives white savior complex a whole new meaning. Quartz, Africa to look, that's pretty good as well. Let's move on to the currency markets where we've seen some big moves. The euro got as low as 117.29 earlier. It's now rebounded to 117.40. Dollar index back above that key level. It's doing a lot of work here. 93.76 now. It's leading me to believe that it's actually drawing a line in the sand. Japanese yen 110.33, Swiss franc 0.9740. The pound, that's coming off 129.36. The Australian dollar 0.7836. India rupee 64.055. South African won 11.3546. Brazilian real 318.82. Egyptian pound 17.7177. And the South African rand at 13.3334. You know, I'm a bit bullish about the rand because I think Zoom is on his way out. Dollar index. Take a look at this chart. The key level here, and it's been the case for over a year, is 93.50 in my view. And it seems that we've been through it, but we've come back and we're above it again. Which is leading me to think that we've got to look for a stronger dollar back rebound, which is what I was writing in that piece called The End Zone. So yes, I think as long as we can do some work around this level and hold tight, we should see a very strong rebound. Euro dollar, I think, is going to be part of that dollar rebound story. 117.41. I think we can go back to 114.50. German GDP data today at 0.6 versus 0.7 expected is not signaling that this recovery in Europe is about to run away from anyone. Apple's 38% jump this year is pretty good until you compare it with Alibaba and Tencent. Crude oil futures settled at $47.59. This is a chart from Lee Sachs, down 2.52%. And I'm expecting that crack low I've been speaking about for a long time. Goldman Sachs consider oil bearish exposure through $48.16 and $37.08. Well, we're at $47.55 right now. Gold, this is interesting. We got up again close to 1,300. I was sort of thinking to myself, is that a triple top? Sub-Saharan Africa and house in Freetown was surrounded by water. Some homes were submerged and many buildings were flattened altogether. And it's not clear how many exactly have died, but plenty after this mudslide just outside Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown. Zimbabwe's Mnangagwa, possible Mugabe successor, is hospitalized currently in South Africa. He is not back yet from hospital in Johannesburg, Mugabe said during his speech at the National Heroes. AK did not give details. S&P has lowered Angola's sovereign credit rating to B- from B. Interesting article in the Daily Maverick saying they may not actually fear Zuma very much at all at the moment. And this is an important point. And if this is the case, then he's surely on his way out. Amid the ongoing analysis of the relative power of the different personalities of the ANC, one of the big questions is whether those ANC MPs who voted to remove President Jacob Zuma last week will be disciplined. If they are, that will show that Zuma and his supporters still have political power. If they are not, it will demonstrate that people can disobey Zuma and get away with it, which would inspire others to follow suit. Zuma has now said that those who disobey the party whip should be disciplined, but he might find it much harder to follow through in terms of action. So that's an interesting development. South African all share up 9.55% year to date, not far off a record high. Dollar rand, take a look at this. This is a 6-month chart. I think it's time to buy the rand. And that's predicated on the basis that it's had a terrible Zuma discount. If that gets reversed, you should see a strong rebound. Nigerian all share up 41.21%. Ghana Commercial Bank takes over 2 capital-strapped lenders. Concerns about the banking system there. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 34.57% so far this year. Editorial in the New York Times about Kenya was pretty hard-hitting. Kenya's national elections last Tuesday were closely watched around the world, less for the results than for the threat of violence that has marred past elections. Barack Obama, whose father was a Kenyan, had been among those urging the country's leaders to reject violence and incitement. This has not happened. Raila Odinga, perennial loser, began crying foul long before the Election Commission declared that President Kenyatta was re-elected with 54% of the vote, which was the number I put on Twitter. To Mr. Odinga's 45. Mr. Odinga's unsubstantiated claims have already touched off rioting in parts of the country and the violence could spread. Presidency was one of 1,880 positions Kenya's 19 million voters were to fill. Most closely and nervously monitored race because of the violence following past presidential elections. And then saying President Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga come from families and networks that have dominated Kenyan politics since independence, and both represent coalitions of ethnic groups. Mr. Odinga has once again fanned the embers of ethnic strife. Disgraceful and unnecessary. International monitors from the African Union, the US, and Europe said they witnessed no foul play. Mr. Odinga's specific claims that Mr. Kenyatta's Jubilee Party hacked into the Election Commission's computers to manipulate results using the identity of Christopher Chenya Musando, the Commission communications manager who was murdered a few days before the voting. His death remains unsolved. All that can and should be checked, but in the meantime, it is imperative that Mr. Odinga strongly urges followers to remain calm. At 72, he might mull the idea that a display of respect for the new constitution would be a far better legacy than another bloody spasm of violence. Mr. Odinga has until Friday to file a lawsuit to challenge the election results, which would be heard by the Supreme Court. I don't expect Raila Odinga to concede, said Ndungu Wainaina, Executive Director of the International Centre for Policy and Conflict in Nairobi. With the court constituted in the way it is, he doesn't expect any justice. He's going for massive mobilization of his supporters. We are likely headed for a protracted political action. The financial markets have shrugged off the possibility of protracted political turmoil, with the FTSE NSE Kenya 25 index gaining for a fifth day on Monday. Kenya's dollar debt returned 1.3% last week, more than any of the other 84 countries in Bloomberg's main index for emerging market Eurobonds. And I think I covered all these points in that article I wrote about finding the off-ramp. And I said, as the dust settles, it is crystal clear that President Kenyatta pulled off a serious political victory, which is what the New York Times is saying as well. The president's team outfought, outspent, and outmaneuvered the opposition at practically every turn. I was referencing Mr. Musyoka's intemperate remarks that central province should lie low like an envelope just 24 hours before the vote. Surely dialed up the vote at Jubilee strongholds. And then, I was talking about how this hacking claim really did not stack up. And I said, the markets, this is what I told Bloomberg Quint just before the 5-day rally. The markets are seeing this accusation of massive hacking as a red herring. And, they tend to see things very quickly. There is no smoking gun, I said, and hence the positive reaction. Kenyan opposition will struggle to maintain allegations of rigging. This is a report by Exotics Partners confirming what I was saying. Investors have barely been perturbed by Kenya's election standoff so far. Its Eurobonds outperformed all emerging market peers last week. That's from Paul Wallace. Kenya shilling a little bit firmer, 103.845, but I don't think we're going to see a big rally in the shilling. I think it'll hang around here. Nairobi all share leapt 2.31% higher yesterday. It's up 26.6% this year and closed at fresh 27-month highs. The NSE 20 has risen nearly 7% since the election last Tuesday. I said the markets were concerned around a leftist Magufuli-like tilt, which would have eroded Kenya's hard-won free market credentials. So part of this rally is a relief rally. I also said there's a ton of liquidity that is set to enter the market and underpin valuations. Barclays Bank spiked 8.9% high yesterday to close at 2017 high. It's up 37.91% in 2017 and reported half-year earnings this morning. Let me take you through the relevant data. Kenya government securities increased by 11.485%. Loans to 52.64 billion. Loans and advances to customers net was up 6.835%, so they grew their loan book. Profit before tax was down 11.522%. Profit after tax down 13.313%. Earnings per share 65 cents a share, down 13.33%. They're paying a dividend, interim dividend, unchanged at 20 cents a share. In the context of the new rate cap landscape, these are actually better than satisfactory results. Safaricom closed at a record and its market cap crossed $1 trillion for the first time yesterday. NSE 20 closed at a 22-month high. That's up 27.96% so far this year. And I thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it.